Folks, welcome back. And as promised, we are joined by Senator Ron Johnson, Republican from the great state of Wisconsin. Hello, Senator. Welcome back.
Well, Steve, how you doing?
Good, good. Good to talk to you. Before we get to the lawsuit that you filed yesterday over Obamacare, and I applaud you for doing so and holding this president accountable for the law-breaking he's been involved in. Let's talk a little bit about the vote that took place in the Senate. Were you surprised that 6 Republicans joined the Democrats to reach the 60-vote threshold to move forward on this unemployment extension bill?
Oh, probably not surprised because, let's face it, we are all concerned about people who are unemployed, particularly long-term unemployed. We want to provide a strong social safety net, so it's not exactly a fun vote to say, no, we're not going to extend things. But, Steve, let's face it, unemployment insurance is basically something run by the states, funded by insurance premium that's actually paid by, or actually tax paid by employers. And so the federal government, when they step in an emergency situation with a severe recession, it's emergency. It's supposed to be temporary. We're 4.5 years into a supposed recovery. At some point in time, that emergency temporary program needs to end. And oh, by the way, if it's going to be a 3-month extension, it's going to cost $6 billion. It really ought to be paid for. I have a suggestion for the Democrats on that, by the way.
Yeah.
Patty Murray just negotiated $22 billion in additional discretionary spending. If the Democrats think this is so important, such a high priority, they ought to take $6 billion of that 22 and actually prioritize spending and pay for this thing so we're not increasing the debt burden on our kids and grandkids.
Well, that's an interesting concept, and Chuck Schumer did indicate a willingness earlier today, calling it the second best option. First best is to just pass a clean bill with no restrictions or limitations on this, but he said he would be willing to try to find ways to pay for it. So if that were the case, if there were a way to pay for it, you'd be on board?
Well, that's pretty simple, isn't it? Just take that increased spending, but let's see what they do.
Yeah,
let's make sure it's a true offset, that it's spending this year, not over 10 years, because this money is going to be spent literally in 3 months.
Absolutely. All right, I want to move on to the lawsuit because for months people like me have been just banging our heads against the wall, and some of you guys in elected positions as well, and watching Barack Obama, not only on Obamacare, but let's focus on Obamacare, just decide what parts of laws he'll enforce, changing parts of laws, deciding what parts of laws he won't enforce. And when it comes to the Affordable Care Act, he's done it over and over and over again. It is illegal. And you went to court, U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Wisconsin, against the advice of people like Jim Sensenbrenner, by the way, to file suit. Tell us what you are hoping to gain by this, what the suit's all about.
Well, first of all, you're right. This president really knows no bounds in terms of his constitutional limitations. So he's doing all these things without the legal authority. In most cases, members of Congress have no standing in terms of challenging that. It's a political process. We have to win politically in order to prevent.
That was going to be my question to you. Yeah, go ahead. I'm glad you're addressing standing.
In this case, this special case, I believe, and my attorneys, we got some pretty good ones. Paul Clement, who argued the Obamacare case in the Supreme Court, is one of our attorneys on this case. So we think we do have that standing because there is harm caused to somebody like me. For example, being forced to engage in activity that violates the law. That's harm. Let me describe the special treatment, which is at the heart of this thing.
Being given to Congress and their staffs, yeah.
Again, I don't have a problem in employers making contributions for people's health care. I did it for 31 years in business. I think that's important, okay? But here's the special treatment. The next wave of cancellations is not going to be individuals. It's going to be people or people buying individual policies. It's going to be people that get their health care through their employers. That's pre-tax, tax-advantaged employer contributions. When those individuals, those millions of Americans lose their employer-sponsored care, they're going to have to buy coverage through the exchange in after-tax dollars. Now, members of Congress and their staff are losing their employer-sponsored coverage because of Obamacare. A different reason, but because of Obamacare. They should be in the same boat, right? Nope. Because of this ruling, members of Congress and their staff, when they buy insurance in the exchange, they're going to get a pre-tax, tax-advantaged employer contribution unlike any other American. That's unfair.
Now, you call it a ruling.
Unjust.
You call it a ruling. You mean the unilateral declaration by the president, right?
Right. Yeah. The regulations by Office of Personnel and Management,
right.
And that's who I'm suing is the OPM.
Okay, so you're not suing Obama specifically.
You have to sue that agency. Now, the other reason this is important to prevail on this is remember the big show Democrat supporters of this bill made when they were trying to pass this bill, when they were trying to sell it to the American public that was pretty skeptical. They made the big show saying, oh, no, we'd be happy to buy our insurance through the exchange, to follow all the rules and regulations of Obamacare. Well, they were eager to do that until they actually were facing the harsh realities of the bill. As a result of this special treatment, the fact that they're not facing the harsh realities, experiencing Obamacare like these millions of Americans who are losing the coverage, losing access to the doctors, they're turning a deaf ear to the pleas of the American people, begging for relief, begging for help. So if we can get members of Congress, Democrat senators, fully realizing and feeling the pain of Obamacare, they just might start acting responsibly to start limiting and repairing the damage of this law.
If you win this suit, we're talking to Senator Ron Johnson, Republican from Wisconsin, a member of the Senate Budget Committee, as well as others. If you win this lawsuit, what are the implications? I mean, would it have any bearing on the other changes to the Affordable Care Act that Obama's made?
I would hope it would set that precedent. Kind of like our suit that we're filed an amicus brief on the NLRB unconstitutional recess appointments.
Right.
Those types of decrees by the court, I would hope, would tend to restrain this totally unrestrained executive.
Yeah, that would be nice. Before I let you go, Senator, there's a story just out at the Washington Post, the memoir of Robert Gates, former defense secretary who's worked for just about every president since Richard Nixon. And in it, he really has a harsh critique of Barack Obama. This story is written by Bob Woodward, who got a glimpse of it. And he has some tough words. For instance, he writes that by early 2010, he had concluded that the president, quote, doesn't believe in his own strategy, doesn't consider the war in Afghanistan to be his. For him, it's all about getting out. He also said that the president was skeptical, if not outright convinced, that his own policy with regard to Afghanistan would fail. Serious charges.
Steve, this president has been a disaster for America across the board, both in domestic, economic, and foreign policy. He doesn't believe America is an exceptional nation. I mean, would you believe that 5 days before he was elected, what did he say? He was going to fundamentally transform America.
And he has been doing it, hasn't he?
And he has been doing it. And the way he's been fundamentally transforming it is on the world stage from a standpoint of foreign policy. Somebody from his own administration said his policy is to lead from behind. Well, that's called following. And when America doesn't lead through its moral authority, some very bad actors fill that leadership void, and we're seeing the results of it, the tragedy of what's happening now in Iraq, because this president didn't successfully negotiate a status of force agreement so we could, after all the sacrifice, the blood and treasure, to try and stabilize that country, which would help stabilize the region. We bugged out of there, and as a result now Iran can, with impunity, supply the Syrian rebels, or the Syrian regime, the criminal regime, and of course now what's happening in Syria is spilling over to Iraq. This is a regional disaster brought about in large part because of just the blunders and the lack of leadership by this administration.
Yeah. All right, Senator. Listen, really good luck with the lawsuit. What's the anticipated time? Do you think the way things drag through the courts? How long before you might have any satisfaction here, one way or another?
Well, you're right. The wheels of justice turn slowly. I'm hoping to get some kind of ruling on the standing issue, which is the first hurdle. Hopefully, within the next couple of months.
Yeah, that.
And again, I'm optimistic on that.
That could open it up because the fact that you guys don't have standing. Well, I don't want to mention what the other option is down the road, but I'll keep my mouth shut. Senator, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
Senator Ron Johnson, ladies and gentlemen, a Republican from the great state of Wisconsin, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Okay, we're scheduled right after the top of the hour when we come back to speak to our third senator in the troika, or the trifecta, of senators on today's Senator Day on the Steve Malzberg Show. Maybe one day we should try to get, let's see, we couldn't get all, anyway, John McCain. I'm sure John McCain will have a lot to say with regard to, he was recently in Afghanistan, so these remarks by Robert Gates in his memoir certainly will be fair game for John McCain. He's also going to weigh in on al-Qaeda's retaking Fallujah in Iraq, not retaking, but, the Battle of Fallujah. I mean, who doesn't remember the Battle of Fallujah and the American treasure that was spent there in blood and riches and lives and limbs, and now Al Qaeda flies a flag over Fallujah. Is it abandonment of Iraq on the part of the United States? What should we do? We'll talk to John McCain about all of this when we return. Of course, this is the Steve Malzberg Show, 3 to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. Watch it on Newsmax TV, radio stations all over the country, on Newsmax TV and radio.
The Steve